So as Jesus tells us to avoid greed in all of its forms, what are some things that we can do to avoid greed? I think number one is the whole idea of stewardship. Stewardship says basically that all that I have is a gift from God, and that secondly, all my gifts are to be used primarily for the good of others and lastly for myself. So I think stewardship helps us to avoid greed. When we see that everything we have, a little or a lot, it's all gift, and that those gifts are really to be used for other people first. So stewardship helps us. Secondly, I think being grateful helps us to avoid greed. Sometimes envy is kind of the root of greed, things that I want, things that I think I need to have. And when I'm grateful for what I do have, when I count the blessings that I do have, then I'm grateful and a little bit less envious and a little bit less greedy as well. So gratitude is a great way to fight against greed. Maybe a third way is simply in the area of faith. That is, of putting faith into practice. We have faith. We want to have more faith. I want to live trusting and confiding in God. How do I do that? I have to take a few risks. I need to put my faith into practice and be a little bit unsure about some things when it comes to greed or money or possessions. I put it into practice. That doesn't mean you're probably going to sell half of what you have today and empty your bank account and give it to the poor, although you're welcome to do that. Some people have done it. St. Francis of Assisi worked very well for him and for others too. However, start with something, right? Do something small. Put your faith into practice. Then fourth, maybe one of the ways we avoid greed is simply by conquering our desire to buy, our desire to have what's new, what's better, what's improved, what I think I need. I mean, we have to replace things that fall apart and are old and don't work anymore, but do we always need to have the best and the newest of things, especially when what we do have is still working? And there's that desire in us to buy, and maybe you can fight that desire. And as the days or the weeks go by and you fight that desire, if you're like me, it's like, wow, I never need that in the first place. I'm glad I never bought that. I'd rather have the money in my pocket or do something else. So fighting that desire, especially to buy. And then fifth, I think the best antidote to greed is its opposite, generosity. Right? If you're giving things away, then it's a great way to relieve greed in your life, and a great way to show that you're not greedy. So you can give some things away. In the gospel, the man is building up his barns, tearing them down to build bigger ones, so he has more and more for the future. And God says to him, you fool, who are all these things? To whom will all these things belong? For us in this day and age, we know who's going to get our things, right? It's written out in your will and in your trust who gets these things. Probably children and grandchildren. For me, my brothers and sisters are the ones mostly in my will. And that's fine. But we need to be generous in the meantime. And I would suggest, too, that maybe you include charitable organizations or include the church in your wills as well. Treat the church as one of your children. So I'll treat the church as one of my siblings in my will, so they get a certain part as well. And in the meantime, to be generous, too, along the way. Because we can think very much, I'll be generous on the day I die, right? There'll be a big inheritance for my family members and others. But really the challenge is to be generous along the way. It's good, I think, for us to practice being generous. Start small. Start with things, and maybe you work your way to money later on in life. But start small and do something. When people come to move the things from your house, I guess the cost is based on how much weight they have to move. And I think just hearing some stuff recently, I think the average weight of things in a house is about 15,000 pounds of stuff. So you own 7.5 tons of things in your home, on average. Things are heavy. Refrigerator's heavy. The beds are heavy. Some things are heavy. They weigh more than others, right? But still, 7.5 tons is a lot of stuff that we find in the average house. And again, some things are necessary. Some things, though, are not. Can you thin out some of the things that you do have? In the gospel today, Jesus gives the challenge to all of us to avoid greed in all of its forms and to be generous. It's not just a challenge for the rich, but for the poor as well. In many ways, I think the poor can be more tempted towards greed because their thought can simply be, I'm poor, I don't have as much as other people, so I don't have to be generous. I don't have to give. I can keep more things for myself. And again, the temptation is for all of us, no matter where we are in life with our things. No one polices us in this area. We have to watch ourselves. you know what's in your heart, you know what you can survive on and what you can't. There's a lot of conversing with family, a lot of reflecting on this over the course of prayer as you see where the Lord leads you in this area. We try our best to avoid greed in all of its forms, especially claiming our right to things that we do not need, and especially in the area of hoarding, in those two areas. So maybe just a challenge for this next week. Maybe we can all try to do two things. One, deny yourself something this week. Something you want but do not need. Whether it's small or big, meals or a big purchase, whatever it might be, deny yourself something or at least delay it for a little while if you can. And then secondly, see if you can give something away. Not garbage and trash, right? Something good, something nice, something that a person would like to have. Whether it's to family or friends or strangers, whatever it might be, give something away. And maybe as we put these things into practice, we trust more and more in the Lord each day of our lives. We grow in faithfulness and holiness as we seek to avoid greed in all of its forms.